1 minute. Turn us on.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, as we come before you tonight, we ask, Lord, that you give us guidance and wisdom as we go about the business of the city of Jackson. Lord, I pray for our city. I pray, Lord, that you continue to give us the wisdom to make this city successful, make it prosperous, bless the people that we represent, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. Begin with roll call.
Foster.
Here.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby. Here. Peters.
Here.
Newkirk.
Here.
Crabtree.
Here.
Bott.
Mayor Evans, your time for the recognition.
Yes. First thing tonight, I would like to ask our Supervisor Ron Aldridge to come up, and we'll start out with Ron. I asked Ron to come here tonight to help recognize some of his staff that have went, I believe, above and beyond this summer in helping out things the city wanted to get done. So I asked Ron to come in to help. He knows these guys a lot better than I do. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Ron himself, and he didn't know this. But Ron Aldridge runs our water plant, and he runs our sewer plant. They like to call it wastewater, but it's still sewer to me. But he runs both those plants and has for almost a year and a half. At a savings to the city of well over $100,000 in salary. And he's doing a fine job. And Ron he's just, there's such a big movement in the educational field of trying to, train vocational and people working with their hands. And Ron is as good a success story as there is out there. He came to the city about 24 years ago and started on the back of a garbage truck. He's worked his way up through the ranks. He was running the water plant when I came here, and now he's running the water plant and the wastewater plant and doing a great job. On top of all that, we had some extra projects that we wanted to do at the pool this summer, and he volunteered to help oversee those too. His staff takes care of the city pool, the water. It's a water project mostly. But they also built both of the new shelter houses out there this summer. And they did it all in addition to their regular work of running the water plant and running the sewer plant. So kudos to Ron. He's doing a great job for us. And, I'm all about trying to run this city more efficiently, and this is a good example as we have here of changes we've made. Still getting the job done, but doing it, saving the city and the taxpayers a lot of money. So thank you, Ron, and a job well done.
The stuff I do, I couldn't do without my people. Obviously, I said that before when I was here prior. And I really do mean that. Not only the guys I'm going to mention here that was actually doing hands-on work, but the guys at the plant that kind of helped pick up their loads that they wasn't there day-to-day to do. That goes all the way to my operators, all the way to chief operators that helped pick up everything when these guys was doing other tasks at hand. I will introduce them in no particular order. Shane Bentley, plant repairman. He's been with the city for
Come up there, Shane.
4.5
Come up there with
years.
him, Shane.
He also started out on a garbage truck when he came to the city. He became a plant repairman 2.5 years ago. So he is kind of jack of all trades, as most of my guys are. Matt Crabtree, plant repairman. He's at the wastewater plant. Matt's been here for about a year and a half. Matt's background is a lot of heavy equipment repair. He was working at Osco before he came to visit the city. Jim McCarty. He's my plant repairman at the wastewater plant. Jim's been with us for a little over 2 years. He worked with his dad for years at McCarty Construction, so his background is pretty vast and comes in really, really handy. J.C. Gillenwater, which is a relief operator, works for water distribution and wastewater collections. I did pull him in to help us do all the concrete and everything at the pool. He's been with the city for a little over a year and a half. Chuck Hopper, mechanic. I guess he probably never dreamed he'd work on shelter houses. He applied for a mechanic's job. But he volunteered and I took him. Cody Wise, which also works mechanic, he did come up and help the concrete. Austin Aldrich, which is not here. Cody and Austin, neither one of them's here. Austin, the plant repairman, he started the city in a garbage truck. He's been with the city for about 5 years. And Nolan Willis and Connor Fraley, which was both seasonal employees. I utilized them at the pool, so everybody chipped in and was able to knock it out. And we've still got more to do. We've got a parking lot to build now, so that's nice.
Yeah, they done such a fine job that we've already got another list. We've already been up there with them laying out what's next. And they're all, they're all doing it willingly, voluntarily. I mean, yeah, they're getting paid, but they could say, like you hear a lot of places, that's not my job. But I've never heard it once. It's a great bunch and they're doing a lot of great things for us. We really appreciate it, guys. We really
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Can we get a picture before everybody sits down? I'm sure Pete Wilson Jr. here would like to have a picture. I'd like to have a picture of you guys up here. Come on up one of here, guys. Whoever thinks they're best looking, come down front. Can you get it all in this way? I absolutely can. Okay, all right. All right, guys. 1, 2, 3. Thanks again. Excuse me. And next, hey, you guys wait around like 5 minutes, then y'all can leave, okay? Because I don't want you to miss this next one. Next, I'd like to ask Tracy Plants to come up. Y'all remember Tracy?
We do.
She worked here for a little over a year, 14 months, something like that. Is that right? And then she left for greener pastures. We hated to see her go, but wished her well. But after our executive assistant, one of our executive assistants, Tanya Hatton, left, we bid the job and was out there looking, and on a whim, I just kind of reached out to see if Tracy would be interested in coming back, and lo and behold, she was. So we're welcome. She's back now, and we're really glad to have her. She did an outstanding job for us, and Tanya was in HR, and you guys all know that. And Tracy's not, but she done so well in her job that we wanted her back anyway. So we're going to take those HR duties and kind of share them around the office. We'll still get everything done we need to. Tracy will pick up some of those HR duties. She'll be primarily projects, so what she was, because this HR stuff is something I consider has to be done, but the project stuff is what I want to get done. And it's all about getting grants and spending the money to make Jackson better. Anytime we get a grant, it's not local. It's tax money. It's all tax. Everything we spend is tax money or utility money, but it's outside tax money coming in that our local taxpayers don't have to come up with. And in the last little over a year, that amounts to over $5 million worth. It was $5 million worth of grants that we've received in the last a little over a year. And there's a lot of people involved in that, in getting those, from finding them to applying for them to coming up with all the data and the information for them. It's everybody in our office. It's at the auditor's office. It's our supervisors in the field. But Tracy is that final piece, kind of putting it all together when we have to apply for it, and she's good at it. So we're happy to have her back. I asked her to come tonight. I just wanted everybody to know it. So Tracy, would you like to, she don't say much, so I'm gonna ask her to say something.
Well, thank you, and I'm really happy to be back with the city. It's an exciting time because there's so many projects going on, and there's still so much funding out there to go get. So I'm thankful to be back and part of this team. So thank you.
Welcome back.
That's all, Dan.
That's it? So can Ron and his crew?
Yeah, y'all can leave now.
You don't have to.
Thank you guys for all that you do.
Sorry.
Okay, so next, we have those who have signed up to speak, and Mr. Berridge, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for 3 minutes here and let you go and speak and bring forth some stuff to us.
Thank you. We had a visiting minister at our church. We're looking for an interim, but the pastor commented in driving around town how he thought the improvements that were taking place around town showed that the town was really trying to revitalize itself, and he thought that was a real compliment to Jackson. He's from up around Lorraine area, so he thought we were really doing good. You asked me last time I was here some questions, and I have a tentative, one of the tentative proposals that I've made. I've got 5 copies. It's proprietary information. I'd like for you to look at it and take a quick look. There might be some questions you have about it. It's proprietary in the sense that there are other people competing for these same funds. Quite a bit more dollars being sought than are actually available. You had a question about what all is being covered in the grant, and am I being paid for it? I'm submitting a request for $20,000 an acre for the land. Some people think that's too much. The commissioners asked me if I would take what it's appraised for, and I said yes, it wouldn't be a problem. If that's what the ground appraised for, that's what I'll take. What questions do you have? The mine shafts that are on the property, 2 are on the city property and 5 of them are on mine. They were originally capped with wood, logs. The logs were covered with planks. The planks then were covered with dirt, 6 to 8 feet of dirt, typical. Some of them fell in. The ones that fell in were filled with city trash. They're not too stable, but they can be stabilized without too much difficulty. The ones that have not been uncovered need to be located and uncapped and sealed, grouted back, or some method to bring them to the top. And I put in funds for that.
I have a question.
Randy? Sure.
Yeah. I was asked today, and actually I wasn't positive on my answer. Is there, you said 2 of those shafts are on what's currently city property?
Yeah, I discovered that there are 2 shafts there that didn't realize that they were there.
And are they or are they not currently open to the surface?
They are not open to the surface. They are
Okay.
currently capped. They present, in my estimation, a potential hazard.
Sure. But if they were open, it was a real potential known hazard.
Well, who knows what kind of shape those logs are in after 100 years? Probably the water table has been high enough that they've been underwater and they've held up as long as they have. But what kind of shape they are when dry years, the water table falls, how much they've decayed, I don't know. That's why they need to be located, and rather than drive any equipment over them or walk over them or anything, they need to be dealt with.
Do you know how many previous ones were filled or recapped or something?
None of them that I know of.
Well, it was one.
The only
on
one in
highway.
town that I know of was over on High Street with the Kyle shaft that was capped with concrete some years ago.
But wasn't there one that showed up on State Route 32 or something and was dealt with?
On State Route 32 at the intersection of 35 and 32, the state built the highway, didn't know there was a mine shaft there. Built right over top of it, the engineers worked over it, everybody just didn't even know it was there. Well, about mid-1980s, the shaft fell in. And when it did fall in, there was quick relocation. They had to go up 93 and back down and come around the other side of the exit. They brought a person in from OSM and an emergency program from Pittsburgh. The individual was called in. He asked local contractors to come in about 10 o'clock that morning, be ready to bid by 2 o'clock, have a bid prepared, and be ready to start work at 5. Local contractors couldn't react that fast, so the person they brought in from Pennsylvania grouted. I talked to him. He said he was busy. He would pump grout down to the bottom of it, let it set for a day, and seal the bottom shaft, then would proceed to fill it up. Otherwise, he could spend days pumping grout into it if he didn't do it, if he wanted to do it right. But he got it done. That was probably about 1984. Some of you might remember that.
Dan, I would like to add for council's benefit, one of the concerns that council seemed to have 2 weeks ago was the price of the land, particularly the land that Mr. Berridge would be selling as part of this project. And since that time, David and I have went to a meeting at the commissioners where that also was a concern. And as he mentioned, he is willing to take whatever a current appraisal would be. And the commissioners have, through the, not sure if it's the commissioners or through the airport authority, they have agreed to go ahead and have that
Independently
that
appraised.
appraisal done by an independent appraiser so that so we know what that price is.
Someone asked, could I get it done? And I said, well, yeah, I could pay the $1,200, $1,500, whatever it costs to do it. But there'd always be the perception that maybe somehow I influenced the cost of it. So it's better that way than it's done independently.
So the application, and I'm not sure if it's going in prior to the appraisal or not, but at any rate.
Probably will.
But at any rate, he's agreed that if the project moves forward, the selling price of his land will be what it is appraised at, and not just what he's asking. So I know that was a.
Well, I did add
an
one
issue.
caveat. I would still take only 20,000, even though it might be appraised 35,000 or so. I would limit
That's true. If it ends up being priced more than that, he's going to hold his price. So just wanted everyone to know that.
I have had offers in past years considerably more than what I'm asking, but I didn't think the type of projects that were being proposed were something that was in the best interest of the city or the community. If I've developed it into permanent wetland in the Scioto Valley region, I could get considerably more than that for it, but that doesn't benefit us to have a wetland view from 35. But I think a sports complex or an industrial park too, both of them do show quite a bit of benefit to the city.
Other questions from council?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Peters?
There was a grant from 1979 for almost $1 million for something at this property. What happened then?
The grant that the city had, or we secured through economic development, was a grant to buy a portion of the ground that's around the creek essentially. That required about $1.2 million to get that as a permanent green space. It was paid for by the state of Ohio and by a $300,000 loan that I made to the city. Eventually, we waived that loan for the city, so that the city ended up with ground with no cost. It was to be a green space. Green space simply means that it's just to be left undeveloped, no roads, no anything for it. It was a wetland green space is what it was assigned for. And what we're trying to do with this grant is come in, take out the invasive species, take out the gob that's there, get it down to native soil, make some extra water storage area. We can't eliminate the flooding, but we can help reduce the severity of some of those spring floods. And we can then get some ground that's out of the floodway and out of it'll be dry all year long, so it would be a good place for our parks.
Other
The sports One of the local 501c3 organizations envisions a project reclaiming enough ground to support 6 multipurpose softball fields, baseball field complexes, 2 soccer fields, 3 basketball courts, 2 tennis courts, and in their expertise, the 6 multipurpose fields will support a range of events. These are in addition to the fields that we've already got. We're not taking anything away from any of our other fields. We're just trying to make some really nice fields for the city, for our kids, so they don't have to travel all over the country.
Other
And
questions?
my grandkids, I admit, I'm got a personal interest in.
Other questions from council?
What I'm asking for is not any kind of financial support or anything. I'm just asking that if we could get an environmental assessment. I have to pay for that. If we go through the city could get the environmental assessment from the EPA at no cost, and that would help further the project along. I'm proposing to go with the project through the Port Authority, and I've been asked why not economic development, why not the city? Port Authority has certain benefits that they can use in terms of the access. There's going to be hundreds of cars in there, and we think that getting access to 35 or a traffic light or something in there, it needs to be approved later on. But the Port Authority can do that.
How many acres are we talking about?
We're talking about 42 acres that I am developing, and then where we're taking the gob out of is about 100 acres around the creek that the city owns that.
Okay.
We're not asking to do anything that will injure the environment. We're trying to improve the environment.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Crabbe.
might have missed this. What was the amount of the grant again?
The amount of the grant, total amount is around $7 million.
Okay, I got you.
That's what we're asking for. We'll see what's proposed from the state. I'm in negotiation with them in about 3 weeks to come up with a dollar figure. Yes?
Do you think that there's enough fill in that gob to make it so we don't have to haul in to build this up? Or?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, it's surprising how much gob is in there. There were 2 railroad companies that hauled gob in there from the local mines, the Tropic Furnace mines, the Eureka mine, the Star Furnace mine, the Fulton Furnace mine. There's all kinds of gob in there.
So,
Gob is coal slack or anything that comes out of the mine when they're digging underground that's not sold as coal.
so to summarize specifically, what is it you're asking of council?
I'd like permission for the city to ask the EPA to do an environmental assessment.
Does anyone opposed to that?
And that's
Does anyone opposed to that?
we can do that for no money.
Tracy, do you have anything to add here? Tracy, in her time away from the city, was doing environmental assessments, I believe. Is that true or not?
Yes, I did help with that. I know the group, RCAP, Community Assistance Partnership, they work closely with the EPA on environmental assessments. One thing they will want to see is what the end project is or product is going to be, so they can evaluate how exactly the environment will be impacted.
That environmental assessment probably will take place after the grant has been submitted, but before it is sent over to Washington, D.C. for their final approval from the Department of Interior.
Mr. Reed?
Will this allow you to remove gob from what is currently the city's property?
Yes.
So you are allowed to do something and remove?
We can't add to the floodway or floodplain, but we can take out of it.
Okay. I didn't know under that current green space if we're allowed to do anything in there really.
Well, we can't do anything to modify it to make it something that it wasn't, but we can do something that will remove trash, remove gob, remove invasive species, something that will improve and make it more original.
Mayor?
Another question came up today. The city has a lot of electric transmission lines through that area. Is that a problem?
No. No, I'm not proposing touching the old railroad bed, the one with the railroad bed, there's beds through there.
Okay.
It would have been nice if they kind of offset the poles instead of putting right down in the center of the old right of way. That was kind of it makes it awkward to get around, but, yes.
So that railroad bed would stay there even?
Yes. Unless somebody wants part of it removed, but I don't see any reason for that. The line is there, it is where it is, and we'll leave it there.
Okay.
You'll still have access to it. Other questions? Any objection to the city asking EPA for that? I think it would be a good environmental assessment done by the EPA rather than having some independent person do it. I think that would make it more valuable.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Burridge.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
If I can have those copies back, I'd appreciate it. And there was one more. Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Next, we'll go into the approval of last meeting's minutes. They were included in your packet. Is there any objections or corrections to the minutes as presented to council this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Ms. Colby? Mr. Newkirk seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Next, we'll move into committee reports. We'll begin with Mr. Ondera on utility.
No report. I might mention that we did have a zoning board of appeals meeting. I think most of you were here. Approved the 3 issues that were on that agenda. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that, but other than that, I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Ondera. Budget and finance, Ms. Colby.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Police, fire, and traffic, Mr. Foster.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. And service, Mr. Peters.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Moving on, we'll speak to the auditor's report. Mr. Reed.
Several things in the packet, the grants and the projects that have been set up and are in the budget for this year. Some of the more money has come in to be appropriated for that. All the money, and we'll speak to those as we go through. The service director and people helping with the projects have decided they would like to buy materials and things at this point so that we're buying them instead of a contractor buying them and upping the price on us, and also having them sitting, because right now is a very hard time for certain items to get them in. So to me, it makes sense, but we'll cover those as we get to them. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Kirby?
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Chief Hinch is not with us this evening, so we'll move to the mayor's report. Mayor Evans?
Yes. I have one more personnel item to mention. I meant to mention when Mr. Aldrich was here, but we still have a garbage position opening right now. I think the bid comes down this week, so anybody wants to start out in the garbage department like he did, there is an opening that's still posted from one of them that had left. Also, you've probably heard on the news, or you approved the last contract at the last meeting with AFSCME, but we have new contracts with all 3 of our unions now, and we're just very pleased with that. This last one with the AFSCME, we got just through negotiation, didn't even have to go to a mediator. So, of course, OPSI had been out since we were here. We hadn't had a contract with them until recently, since I've been mayor. But we have one now. That's the supervisors. You know, That was a difficult one, went all the way to fact-finding because there were changes that we wanted and the council was expecting, and we got a lot of those done. Feel like we get a good result. The Teamsters, which was the police, had been out for a year and a half or whatever, but we have a contract there now. And we're able to iron out some of the things there that that one was difficult too. It went to conciliation, and basically they write the contract for you. But then after me, we're able to get through negotiations. With the AFSCME, we have a new 3-year contract with a 3% increase in salary each year. At the same time, the amount they pay for their insurance coverage goes up from 6% to 12%. Both the other contracts, the Teamsters for the police and the OPC for the supervisors, they each got 2% raises each year. And they also, their contribution to the health insurance goes from 6 to 12. So everyone involved in the city now will be, if they have the city insurance, they'll be paying 12% of the premiums going forward. Just want to give a shout out to Service Director Swackhammer. He's the point man on the negotiations, and like I said, with the OPC union, it's been going on since we got here. But just real happy to say that we have contracts with all 3 unions. I think they're contracts that are fair to the workers, yet sensitive to our citizens and our taxpayer, which is who pays all those salaries. And I know there were some items within those contracts that council wasn't happy about. The previous council wasn't happy about it. In fact, that was why they had brought in the contract negotiator that we continue to use. It's a great feeling to have all this behind us and be able to concentrate on other things for a while. And that's basically my report tonight, unless y'all have any questions.
Questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Swackhammer, Service Director?
Yes, utility office. At the end of September, actually starting September 25th through October 4th, we will not be able to take online payments at the utility office. We are making the switch over to Invoice Cloud during that 1-week period. All payments will have to be in person or through the drive-through or the night drop box. More come up on that, but I just want to put that out in front of everyone ahead of time. We did have our pre-construction meeting for the paving for 139 and 93. They will be coming in to do the resurfacing of the 2 bridges there on 93 down by McDonald's and Wendy's after the holiday, but before the Apple Festival, with the paving to occur the week following the Apple Festival. So that's a new timeline on that paving work. High Street Bridge continues to move forward. It's about another month left on it. And most of the intersection work you see going on right now that is framed for concrete pouring is the completion of the ODOT signal replacement work. They should finish up in the next 2 weeks prior to the holiday on that work. That's all I have.
Questions for Mr. Swackhammer?
The
There.
four-way stops. I noticed we got all the poles up, but we don't have any stop signs up yet.
Yep, I talked to Mr. Hatton. Thursday and Friday is their target dates to do that. They're trying to coordinate it with Mr. Thacker so that we can go to 4-way red flashing at the same time. And signs and signals will remain up until after the Apple Festival.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer. At this time, we will move on then into the ordinances and resolutions section of our agenda. And we will begin with believe, ordinance on first reading. First would be ordinance 3422, I believe. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance approving additional appropriations for expenses associated with RETA administration expenses and declaring an emergency.
The chair would like to entertain a motion to accept ordinance 3422 as presented to council this evening. Mr. Ander, is there a second? Second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discussion, Mr. Reed.
Okay, this ordinance is basically a bookkeeping ordinance. This is money that really doesn't come to us, but it's used, and it shows what RETA is using for administering and collecting. The income tax has done very, very well for the city. We're going to be, I believe, at the end, someplace between $2.8 million and $3 million going forward. So this is administrative, but before, when we did the first income tax, we did not book the gross. So in other words, the state wants you to book the gross, and then they'll show the fees taken out of it. Even though that money never comes to us, we still have to keep it on our books. So that's why this is here. We need this additional money to show the money that RETA has keeping for what they provide us with. So we do need this. Council will pass it. It will really help us as far as on our books.
Mr. Ander?
Isn't RETA's portion, do they get a percentage of what is taken in? I guess I don't understand. There's something about this I don't understand. I was figuring that they would have their percentage and we would know what that percentage is based on what we're taking in, so.
Yes. So in other words,
This is administrative expense.
yes. In other words, we're not paying them technically. They're collecting the money.
Right.
They're keeping their percent.
Right.
And they're sending us a check for the rest of it.
Right.
Okay. We still have to show their percent. Even though we're not writing them a check, we're not sending them money, we have to show the money that they keep on our books.
Okay.
So we're showing the gross collected.
Got you.
So that's what this does.
Okay.
It allows us to say, okay, they collected and we owe them $3,000 for this time period.
Mhm.
It's broke down on the books that we have to keep track of RETA, but we have to show everything that was collected from everybody and then show their percentage out of it.
Okay.
So this is just like I say, a bookkeeping thing for us. It's not we're writing them a check for this, but they are keeping a percentage of this money. This will get us through the end of the year.
Other discussion?
I have a quick question.
Mr. Peters?
So no money was appropriated in the budget to cover this? This is an additional, or?
Yes, this is additional.
Yeah.
So when we talked about this, when the tax passed, we'd asked, I know my dad was sitting here and he asked that the cost of this, because a lot of municipalities pay someone locally to administer the tax. Where are we in that? Where are we total for this? This is we're through year one, right? How much
Right.
how much did they take as an administrative expense? I know it's probably, the percentage is probably buried in that 50-page document, but what is the percentage that they do take?
They're about 3%, between 3 and 4% total. So, in looking at the numbers, actually, there are several that do their own RETA collection, several entities, but most that do it for themselves and for others. RETA has actually gone up in people that use them over the last several years, and the discussion was we would use them the first year, definitely, and then look at the percentage and see if it was practical to hire somebody, a local person, to do the collections.
So So in your professional opinion, where are we in that?
Right now, we
Yeah.
would be $100,000 into it, plus.
So do you think it's a better idea to stay with Rita for the
At
time
this
being?
point, with the office and all the changes that we've got, yes, I do. I think, right as of now, I don't think it's something, I think it's something that the council should look at next year, as far as seeing if it's something that's feasible. But right as of now, I think they've done very well for us, and it makes it very simple.
Fair enough. That's my questions. Thank you.
Mayor?
I might add that this is our second, coming to the end of our second year, and it's just for 5 years, too. So if we're able to make it permanent, I think we definitely would want to look at that.
Look at it.
And fill a position to do it instead of using Rita. And that's our goal, of course.
Other discussion?
So if council would see this and pass it, I would appreciate it, just so we can keep up on the books.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second by Mr. Andera. Discussion. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Ordinance 3422 is duly adopted. Next, we'll look at ordinance 3522. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance for transfer of funds from general fund, transfer out to gas, fuel, and oil fund, and declaring an emergency.
The chair would entertain a motion to, for ordinance 3522.
So moved.
Mr. Peters, is there a second? Ms. Colby? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes. At the time the budget was set up, we had placed $75,000 in the general fund transfer outline item, not knowing where we might need it throughout the year. We have got a need right now. As you know, fuel costs are doubled for almost part of the year. So the garbage is running short on their gas, fuel, and oil line item. That's why we're asking for $15,000 of that $75,000 to be moved from the transfer out. Again, that was already in the budget to be transferred into that line item for them for the rest of the year.
Discussion.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Andera makes a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, I'm sorry, I was looking at something else. Discussion. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Discussion. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera. Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Ordinance 3522 is duly adopted. Next, we will look at ordinance 3622. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance approving additional appropriations for expenses associated with the Mill Street Sewer and Water Project and declaring an emergency.
The chair would like to entertain a motion to accept ordinance 3622 as presented to council this evening. Mr. Newkirk, is there a second? Mr. Peters, seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Mr. Reed, discussion.
Okay. These are appropriating grant monies that we have received so that we can expend them. The main two here, we were awarded money from the county. There are funds for the $800,000. This puts it in the budget. We also, and that was kind of a change since the beginning of the year. We have the Mill Street Sewer, which is the 107, and that was given to us as to cover the engineering of the project. And the 33,000, the last one, the council had used 180,000 of our ARPA money for each project. We said that's what was set up originally. and we didn't have quite 180,000 in our ARPA money, so that makes up the difference. So that is for the Mill Street Water and Sewer Project.
Other discussion? Mr. Newkirk made a motion. Is there a second? Ms. Colby seconds. Other discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Ordinance 3622 is duly adopted. Next, we'll move on to resolutions. We have Resolution 3022, second reading. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution authorizing the city to enter into an agreement between the City of Jackson, Ohio and Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for landfill services and declaring an emergency.
Discussion. Mr. Sweckhammer.
Yes, at last meeting, I was asked to go back to Rumpke and ask him about some type of fuel surcharge, so if fuel prices went up and down. That is not something that they're putting in any of their contracts. The contract that they have before is the one that they believe is the best they can offer at this time.
Mr. Peters.
I'd asked, last meeting what that does to affect our customer rates. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but, what does that look like?
Yeah, right now, until I get into all the budget numbers and we see what the revenues and stuff are going to be, it's going to, I'm not going to have a number for you for another probably 6 weeks or longer.
That's fair enough.
Other discussion? Hearing none, this constitutes the second reading of Resolution 3022. First reading, Resolution 3422. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution authorizing the mayor of the City of Jackson to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement to the Clinton Tapped Sewer Project and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency.
Could I have a motion to accept Resolution 3422 as presented to council? Mr. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Andera, seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Sweckhammer.
The grant deadline is October 7th, so we do have some time. But this is just allowing us to go after some of that additional grant funds.
Peters?
I move to suspend the rules so we can get the ball rolling on this.
Second by Mr. Crabtree. Other discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Other discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 3422 is duly adopted. I thank you, council, for your work there. Ms. Kuhn, I don't think we have any correspondence that's come through to us. Old business. Anything to be brought before council, Mr. Peters?
Could we discuss a little bit of this EPA assessment? I'm all for it if it's $0. I'm all for it if we're not committing to something without that.
I concur with Mr. Peters. I think if that's not going to cost us anything, then I think we ought to move forward.
Mr. Sweckhammer, just have one question of procedure. Does council need a motion and to move, or is it just on consensus?
Yeah, I think just consensus is fine.
Any other discussion on this? Go ahead.
I won't finish with that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion in regards to this, the EPA consensus? Okay. Mr. Pierce?
I just had a question. We were talking about cost allocations at either the end of last year or beginning of this year with like the study that's done by
Maximus.
Maximus. Is that happening? Where
We're
are
trying
we?
to get it going. We're trying to get enough data. We've got a little bit of an issue because we changed the structure of the city again with the supervisors. So to gather enough information to get, they're trying to work on something that can be forward-looking, but it's a little bit of an issue because we don't have all the documentation we normally would have. Normally, you look at the prior years. Problem is, our prior 2 years have changed the way it's back closer to what it was now than what it was before, but we're trying to sort those numbers out for them.
And then when or?
We're trying to get one done for this year. Whether we can or not, I'm not really positive. And they won't give us a definite yet.
You're still a ham sandwich Friday.
Any other old business to be brought before council?
I realize that we keep making Brett's office work harder, but we're gonna keep doing it. Every time we think we can save the city money or make the city better, we're gonna keep doing it. Even if it means a little more work for him, or a little harder to get a Maximus study done, we're gonna keep doing it.
Thought you were gonna comment about the ham sandwiches. but-
No, I don't know about the bet.
All right.
I don't think I'm in that one.
Moving on to new business. Any new business the council would like to discuss? Mr. Swackhammer?
I do have one that actually came in today. I have a request for sewer outside the city. Timothy and Ashley Oosley on Trenton Avenue. There is a sewer line there right next to their property. There's no additional cost other than just the normal tap fees. And they have requested council consider extending sewer to them.
Discussion?
I move as long as everything's kosher, I say we move ahead.
Mr. Peters,
I agree.
second by Mr. Alondera. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Any other new business?
Cindy, I'll need a copy of that one too.
President. Just something really quick. The chamber and some of the local downtown businesses have, a few people have asked me, some last year and then more recently. In Ohio, there is a provision in ORC to allow for designated outdoor refreshment area, meaning that local establishments like our brewery and any other adult beverage places, they would allow city to designate areas where basically an open container law would be admitted, like you'd be allowed to do that. With some of the things that the chamber has done downtown, like this past weekend, I mean, they're trying to do things in an alley. And it's not really conducive to, you know, what they're trying to put on and things like that. So I'll just email out the link to everyone's email. But basically, nearly every city near us has already taken advantage of the state law, and Chillicothe, Portsmouth, Athens, to allow them to have you know, like a concert or whatever adjacent to those businesses, where the businesses can serve drinks and the patrons can just mingle around in that designated area. I know that's kind of shocking, like shocking to the conservative peeps in Jackson, but other cities do it in conjunction with the chamber and in conjunction with local businesses, helps promote downtown businesses, helps promote our city. It allows these groups to put on things that they necessarily couldn't do without that. I talked to Mr. Kirby about it. He's somewhat familiar about it. He has the information. Just throwing it out there, kind of testing the waters, because I'm going to meet with some of the local business people that have asked, if we would consider it, and just, putting it on the radar, going down the road as something that I would say a majority of these types of businesses downtown would support it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Mr. Polk,
Yes, sir, Mr. Render.
if I will, where are we right now with that? I mean, you mentioned the alley, so they're allowed to drink in the alley, but you're not allowed to drink on Broadway? Is that the
I
deal?
don't know this to be true, but anybody who has a permit, and Pete would probably be someone else to talk to because he has experience with this, but you can apply for like a special permit to serve alcohol in certain areas, like
Well, my question is, right now, where are we?
you can. You can, unless you.
But I mean, didn't we just do that? Didn't we were we serving alcohol this past weekend in the alley?
Right, through the state, the Department of Commerce, liquor control, whatever you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can, if you have a license,
Yeah.
you can petition the state to say, hey, I want to serve alcohol in this designated area at this designated time.
What's different about what we just did and what you're talking about, though? I don't understand.
Well, the difference is like, let's say, the corner pub wants to partner with 6 Cents and have some sort of, concert or some sort of fair or whatever on the street, they would have to petition the city for a designated area. This would allow the patrons to go from one place to the other, which they can't do now. You can't, because there's open container law. And
Okay, so the issue is they can serve alcohol there now, but they can't walk around it.
Correct, you just stay in the
Yeah,
cage.
no, I was just confused about.
So some other, like, I'll give you an example, like, like Paint Street on Chillicothe.
Yeah.
So they block the street off,
Right.
and then and they have a special cup you buy. It's not like I'm just cruising around with a beer bottle. You have to buy a cup from the Dora group, and you can take that cup to any of the establishments and get you a drink and move on to the next one.
Okay.
I don't think it promotes like we're New Orleans or something here, but it does allow, our downtown businesses to do things to help bring people here to spend their money here, not Chillicothe.
Yeah, I just knew that they were serving alcohol, and I just happened to be in the alley there, and I noticed they're all back in the alley. Why are they all in the alley?
Exactly. Why we gotta go hide in the alley? That's the point. Why
Okay.
can't we just have a good time right there on Broadway?
I didn't get that. Okay.
That's all I have. I'll send it out to everyone and just think about it.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Is there anything else to be brought before new business? Mr. Ondera?
The Columbia Gas Pipeline. It has invaded my section of town, as you all know.
And mine too.
And Marvis. But, we talked about this before, what are their responsibilities for replacement? We had a couple gentlemen in a while back to talk to us about that, and I'm not sure that the information that we were given from them is actually being followed, but I do have a couple of questions about what is going to take place over on my end of town. I'm sure the mayor and Mr. Schweiker both realize they took the sidewalk from Bennett Avenue to David Avenue, and they ripped it right down the middle, so it has been cut in half, which seemed like an odd thing to do, and it looks like it's going to be a really ugly mess when it goes back in. So I would highly advise us to talk to them about replacing the whole sidewalk rather than half of it, you know. I noticed there was an area from on the other side of the first house on Bennett, then there's the empty lot. They didn't do any of the seeding or strawing or anything with that empty lot area. They just covered it up and moved on. They started in front of Barbie and Catherine's house, and they seeded and strawed it, but they left that other area just totally blank, which didn't make any sense to me. But the sidewalk, you know, is, and I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we may have to go back and look at the minutes, but I believe they said when they cut the street that they put 6 inches of concrete in and then 2 inches of asphalt. Does that sound right to you guys?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So it looks to me like they put 6 inches of 304 in there and tamped it in, and I don't see any concrete going in. None. They look like they're doing a good job tamping in some 304, but they're not putting any concrete in, as far as I can tell.
Seem to be putting in more speed bumps than anything, because
Right.
it's nothing but a...
Yeah, David Avenue is just, you know, is really a mess for, and I realize we're gonna get these streets paved, you know, probably next year, hopefully next year, after this work's been done. But right now, I mean, they've cut my driveway, and don't get me wrong, I understand there's a price to be paid for progress. I mean, I understand that. But I've got a 6-inch concrete driveway, and I want a 6-inch concrete driveway when it's done. I put it in 20 years ago, it doesn't have a crack in it, but that's because I put it in with steel and 6 inches of concrete, and I don't really feel like I'm gonna get that back if I don't say something. So I think there just needs to be some kind of further oversight with these guys, and I feel a lot of complaints, you know, just because it's in my area, you know. And they've dug up my yard 3 times now, and it's a mess. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Rondera.
My soapbox.
Mr. Peters?
Is there something that we can do to make sure that there is some sort of spec? Is there an ordinance or anything that this body could pass to make sure that they can't do the work without, you know, running it back to our specifications?
I noticed, my son has a house in Chillicothe, and they're over there in his area doing the same thing, and everything they're putting back over there is all in concrete. They're not putting any asphalt down. They're using concrete just about everywhere. So I don't know if that's because of what the city has expect them to do, or.
Well, we should change that. So, Mr. Kirby, is there anything else?
I'm just looking to see, there is I'm not going to find it on here. There is an ordinance on how they have to put, I think it has to meet the spec of the service director, I believe.
When they started this spring, there was a meeting with Mr. Swackhammer and them. And I think they were doing a very good job. But I have heard lately that they're not up to par maybe, and we'll make sure we get right on checking this tomorrow. I believe the gentleman that was in here, which was their project manager, has been moved, and that's probably the root of the problem, but we'll try to get to the bottom of it, try to bring them back up to par. And we'll make that a priority here.
Fair enough. I have one other question. The issue down here on Portsmouth Street where half of it's been paved and half of it hadn't been, is that Columbia Gas or is that us?
You know, I just saw it last night. That's Columbia Gas, and I have no idea why they did that way. They went all the way across the street fixed half of it back to pavement and not the other.
Well, I assume they're gonna dig it back up again, that's the only thing I can figure.
I-
But right now, it's a serious pothole
It
right
is, I
now.
just noticed that last night though, as I was making rounds. So, are you aware of that, David?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. So,
That's all I have.
Any other new business to be brought before council?
the, I'm going to ask for the executive session that's shown on the agenda for the reasons shown there. And I'd like to ask for everyone at the table to stay and also to invite Mr. Brady from Economic Development in for that. If someone would please make that motion for it.
I'll move to enter into executive session to consider confidential information of an applicant for economical development assistance.
Is there a second?
Mr. Brady's name.
Mr. Arndaro, second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm sorry, roll call. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Foster. Colby.
Yes.
On there.
Oh, sorry, I don't know why that's mixed up. Andera.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Pop.
And I will say to those in the media, we do not anticipate any other new business or business would be done after executive session. on September the 12th. And I don't have anything else, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bob, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, 8:25.